Well, I think I'm going to give this propane setup a second chance. So I just kind of was just looking at this and kind of trying to figure out what to do. Everything I've like watched and I don't know, I've been looking into this sniper kit and it seems like it's just too finicky. There's just a lot of little things that can happen and I just don't want that to be going on the trail. And propane doesn't hardly have anything. If you got propane, you pretty much are going. So what I did find, this is the solenoid that lets the gas into the mixer. And when I dropped this, I don't know if something in here stuck or what, but I was just messing around and I blew in it and I couldn't get, I had it hooked up to a battery and I couldn't get anything to happen. Well, then just in my messing around, I tried it again and now I can blow in it. So something in this solenoid has gotten stuck or whatever, but it's free now, but I don't trust it. So I'm going to order probably two of these so I got a spare for on the trail. Um, but yeah, so that is probably why I couldn't get it to start before. And so I was just minutes away from just bolting this mixer on and throwing the throttle body on and making it go. But when all that happened, I pulled the lid off the mixer and I don't know, some of the gaskets were kind of crusty and dry, and this makes like a byproduct when the liquid turns into a gas. It makes almost like a wax in there. So a lot of the chambers are full of that waxy stuff and everything. So I forgot about that, but I did order a kit, and so I'm going to throw this whole kit into this. And I actually, when I was running propane on here before, this little pad right here is where that bolts to, and then you can run your heater hoses right in there. You got to run heater water through or radiator fluid through there so it doesn't freeze when the propane's in there. And then I just throw the throttle body on. There's a hose that comes around, hooks into the mixer. Super simple. And for now, I'm just going to set the tank on the floor, hook up the lines, and see how it does. But the way it ran before, it was super crispy. It's the best it ever ran. And at that point, I was just in a hurry. We had a run we were going on, so I threw a carb on it, and that's kind of what it's been ever since. So I'm going to try this, and yeah, we'll keep you posted on how this goes. All right, I got the bolts out of the top of this, and when you open this up, this is what you get. So this is the main diaphragm here, which here's the replacement. And then there's this piece is going to come out. There's another diaphragm hoopty here that goes in underneath that. And then, yeah, this is going to replace this little plunger. And it even came with a new little rocker arm deal here. So that all goes together. And then if I remember correctly, this little sponge piece is down underneath inside of down under here, so I'll get that apart. There's another rubber gasket. That'll be this bottom gasket down here. And then there's one that's going in the middle of the body right here. But it's super simple. I mean, there's not a whole lot to these. So, and they run upside down, sideways. They don't give a crap about altitude or anything. They can be, like, we've had them freeze up a little bit in the wintertime when it's real cold, but yeah, it's getting started in the winter. Sometimes it's hard, but we don't wheel too much in the wintertime, especially not in a crawler type rig with no top and doors. So it should be fine, but I'm going to open this up more and see what we find inside there. Well, we're into the next little layer here, and that was this kind of spaceship looking thing here. So there's just a spring on this arm, and like just the way, that's just a valve that opens this. Here's another diaphragm, a couple springs on it, and a couple little ports in there. But yeah, again, pretty simple. I'm gonna pop these couple screws out of here and pull the rest of the body off and see what's under that. Okay, those screws are out. I put a little orientation mark there and one right there just to make sure everything goes back the way it should. Now I'm sure there's little ports or who knows what that need to be lined up. So yeah, pull this off, and this is what, that's some of that residue stuff that comes from that. There's our sponge. in our gasket deal here. So, yeah, this thing's pretty crusty. That's you compare that. I mean, this thing's thin and pretty hard. It's pretty stiff. So we got a nice new sponge there for that. But it's down in here, and I remember I kind of cleaned some of this out before. But this kind of pinkish red junk is, it's, I don't know. I remember some of these pockets had just like a wax and stuff in there that you clean, you know, I had to clean out. Here's this other little spring-loaded deal here. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. It's clean it up, put the new parts back in, slap it on, and in a perfect world, it'll fire right up. So that's the next process. And this will be the bottom. So you pop that off. Here's the other gasket that we need. And it's got this weird maze that runs through all this stuff. Same thing, I put a couple of marks on there so I know where everything goes. But yeah, so this is where I guess the magic happens. But so yeah, we're just gonna throw some new rubber gaskets in this thing and clean it all up and everything and put it together. So that's the last phase before we get to put it on. Okay, I got that all cleaned up, and then basically figure out how this gasket goes on here. So get that lined up, and then this top goes back on. There's my little mark, my little mark. So just get those lined up, and we slap some screws in. With something like this, as you tighten down, you're going to want to, I don't know if it matters or not, but I like to, you know, crisscross pattern and just slowly torque them down and let it all settle evenly. You don't want to wrinkle that gasket or anything in there. So just a little safety tip. You can see there's some corrosion around here, and there's a rubber gasket that's going to sit on here. So I'm just using a little bit of gray Scotch-Brite. It's enough to cut it off of there, you know, and smooth it up and get rid of the big chunks and everything. And just give that rubber somewhere to seat a little bit better. So another little tip. All right, everything's all cleaned up, and then now we got this little guy. He just drops right in there, and then this sponge, and that sits just like so. And then this gasket will go in, and I think it goes in this way, but I got to put it, the base of this actually, it's got the hole and everything to line up. So I'll stick it on there, stick it in this thing, and bolt her together. So this back piece is kind of nice. It's got a couple little dowels that this rubber piece fits on pretty firm. And the only little part, be very careful, there's a little button right there that falls out. So just keep an eye on that, or take it out, set it aside somewhere safe, and don't forget to put it back in. But yeah, just watch for that little guy. So that part's together, but this centerpiece here kind of has to go in because some of the bolts in that are actually what holds the body together here. So there's two that I put in. I just started them, just barely got a little tension on them. So we got to get this little plunger valve on here. This is a Torx. That's the only one that there is. And then this little gasket right here will go in. And then we can bolt this whole assembly together. And we're almost done. Alright, that's all together. Everything's working good there. The last piece is replace this diaphragm. And that is the lid. And then we're done with this thing. And there it is. It's all back together and ready to go on. And actually, it's kind of late, but curiosity has got me. So I might stuff this thing on here tonight and see if it'll fire up. So, yeah, but like I say, super simple. The propane comes in here, goes through this little solenoid that opens up, goes into here, does all its super happy fun stuff, and comes out here. So this goes into the throttle body. And I don't know, it's about as simple as they get. So, yeah, I think I'm going to put this on tonight. This is the throttle body. It's pretty much the same as like anything. It's, you got your, you know, you can do your timing here, PCV valve there, brake booster back here, and then your propane line will come in up here. But yeah, it's basically just a throttle body, and I don't know, some more magical stuff happens with air and propane in there that makes everything work. But yeah, super simple, bolts on just like a carburetor. So yeah, I'm gonna put this thing on. I already got the carburetor's off. I gotta throw a new gasket on, and yeah, I'm minutes away. Mr. Gasket, you do not need to package your gaskets so damn weird. I mean, it's like you need an act of God to get this thing out of here. It is vacuum sealed, and yeah, I ripped the corner off. But look at this. I don't know how you're supposed to get a kind of a delicate gasket out of something that is so glued together and everything. This plastic's damn near melted to this thing. So, yeah, that would be pretty wonderful. I'm sure I'm not the only one that absolutely hates opening these gaskets. I got my gasket out finally. Everything else is okay. I did tear that corner, but for tonight, it's going to be good enough to get it in and see if it works. I'll pick up another one because I'm just installing this temporarily, and I'll go back and put it on better. I just want to see how this thing runs. Okay, I got it temporarily stuck on there. So there's our throttle body, hose going in the mixer. This thing's barely bolted on there. I didn't even hook up the where the coolant lines go through. I'm just gonna try it out. I just ran a hose over here to a tank. I disconnected my gasoline fuel line and cranked it over and ran it into this jug, and I'm just gonna leave that there in case once it does fire up, it's got something in there. So all I have left to do, I got my ground hooked up, and it's basically this will simulate turning on the ignition, which sends power to the solenoid, which opens up for the gas to get into there. And I go over and hit the key, and hopefully everything works. So I can hear it pressure, I think. I don't know. Oh, I gotta. So I've got a leak in this hose, so I don't know what's going on there, but oh, it feels like it's cracked. Okay, so change that. So I've got to abort mission. This hose is dry rotted, and I trimmed off the piece that was leaking there, but it is just pinholed all the way through it. So yeah, it's not going to work tonight. But I will pick up a new hose, and I'm pretty confident that this thing's going to fire right up and run like a champ. Well, I found a little piece of hose that was actually working. I kind of just cobbled this together. Now my solenoid isn't wanting to cooperate, so I'm going to order a solenoid, order up some more hose and everything, and get this working. And as I did this video, I kept calling this the mixer. It's not a mixer, it's a regulator. That's the mixer. But yeah, it's pretty much, this is what regulates your pressure and everything. It goes into your mixer, which mixes your air and fuel. So just to clarify that. But again, pretty simple setup. Like I say, this stuff's been sitting around for a while, and yeah, and I dropped it, so I think once I get these two little items fixed, I think I'll be back in action in this thing. Like it was super crispy and it ran great when it was on there. And like I say, I was in a hurry. The carburetor seemed to run pretty decent, but this was by far superior to that. So, and there's really not a whole lot to go wrong. If I get a new solenoid, yeah, maybe keep some spare hose or something on hand. But other than that, you don't need fuel pumps, computers, any of the other junk. So, and it's higher octane than gasoline. I think it's 108 or something like that. It doesn't quite get the mileage that gasoline does, but yeah, it's still, like I say, it's for altitude and running upside down, sideways, climbing hills, whatever, it doesn't care. So if you're looking for something affordable, I think a whole kit like this is like under $1,000. So the worst part about propane is these tanks. It's just kind of a pain to mount them. They take up a lot of room. And it depends. If you're just trail riding and you ride with most people that are all, regular Jeeps and stuff, this probably isn't the best setup. If you do a lot of crawling, there's a lot of guys running, buggies and different stuff that are running propane. So if something happens, they may have spare parts. They may have an extra tank, something like that. So kind of keep that in mind too. But yeah, for what I do, I think if I can make this work, I'll be pretty happy with it. My buddy Austin, he's running propane in his that black CJ or black YJ that I wheel with, and also my buddy Derek, he's running propane in his Toyota. So between all of us, we should have something to get us home. So yeah, but I'm gonna get these parts coming. I'd imagine a couple days, and I'll have everything I need, and we'll give her another shot then.